Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is the Ripper Danny B, and welcome to this, I guess you could call it a catch-up video. Now, I know that a lot of you are new to the channel, so you won't be too aware of what my channel was known for before 2K18 came out, and that was CWR, Championship Wrestling Revolution. It was my own kind of customized story show universe mode thing. That was running for a couple of years. Now, since the release of 2K18, I obviously have only released one CWR episode, the Asylum episode. It was a couple of months back now. I am not quitting CWR. Like, what this video is, it's kind of a catch-up to where we should be if the episodes had been running properly. Now, I mentioned during the mega show, the universe mode mega show, that I had driver errors on my PC. That, coupled with some timing issues, meant that I haven't managed to get CWR out as quickly as I would have liked. Now, it's coming up to Christmas time, and I would usually be taking a break about now anyway. The Apocalypse pay-per-view show for CWR would have been coming out probably next week. So, I don't know when I'm actually going to be releasing this. When I say next week, it would have been coming out the week beginning, whatever it is next week. I've lost track of my dates already. It would have been coming out roughly the 20th. We'll say that. That's what I would have done. Then I would have broken for the Christmas break because the children are around and I don't have as much time to record. And I don't really want to because it's Christmas. I kind of want to spend some time with my family. So that's what I would have been doing anyway. And we would have be coming back probably the second week of January like I usually do. So, with that in mind, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to take a look back. Now, you can see obviously in the background already there is some Apocalypse footage playing. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking through the storylines that have occurred, would have occurred, exactly what would have led to the matches at Apocalypse, and we're going to go through the results, obviously. So we're going to start with the Tag Team Championship match, which, if I've lined this up correctly, will be the one playing now. It will be the Glorious Prize Fighters, Bobby Roode and Kevin Owens, taking on the team of Strike First, Randy Orton and AJ Styles. Now, this match came about, realistically, it started back at Immortality when the Tag Team Championship Gauntlet match took place, which if you want to go back and watch that, they are still all on my channel. If you're not all that caught up with CWR, Immortality is not a bad place to kind of get an idea of where the storylines went. At the time, it was the end of a reboot, because I cancelled, if you don't know, I cancelled CWR last year. I ended up bringing it back a couple of months later, because I really did miss putting together the CWR style shows, and it's kind of been a labour of love for a couple of years, so it took me it was a rough decision to cancel it, but it was a happy decision to bring it back. But I had to kind of reset a lot of the storylines because they didn't play out the way they would have done. And I am going to do eventually. I am going to do a kind of full catch-up of the CWR, maybe what would have happened in that time period, what the plans were. If any of you out there are familiar with Mathwiz97X, he does a kind of what could have happened behind the universe. I'm planning on doing something like that eventually, and if you are interested in that, or if you're interested, in fact, in a full kind of catch-up of where CW has gone over the last 2 years, again, a lot of you have come in for different reasons, or you just don't want to go back and catch everything up yourself. If anybody wants to see that, let me know in the comments section. I'll happily get on with that, and, kind of give a full catch-up of where CWR is, what's gone on, the storylines, the championship records, anything of the like. Anyway, back to the match at hand. So at Immortality, there was a tag team gauntlet match. The Glorious Prize Fighters, who, back before the cancellation, were well on their way to becoming, a formidable tag team within the CWR. They ended up coming out last. We had other teams in that match. The Revival, the Young Bucks were in there. There's a number of other teams. Mustache Mountain was in there, I believe. Luchadores de Dragon, which... that's another idea that has kind of been shelved a little, so that's all things I can go through another time. It came down to the prize fighters and Randy Orton and AJ Styles. Now, Orton and Styles have been through a couple of matches already by the time the prize fighters came out. Their union was based on the fact that when the tag team title gauntlet match was announced, AJ Styles actually asked Randy Orton, based on their history, because they had fought at the original Immortality, based on their history, they realised they could work well together, so decided to put it together. Now, by the time it came to the end of the match, Strike First had been through a couple of opponents already, like I said. Glorious Prize Fighters were the last entrants, and were able to defeat Strike First due to, you know, just being a little bit more fresh. And when it came around, the new season started, Strike First would challenge the Glorious Prize Fighters. Now, Kevin Owens would say no, but Bobby Roode would let his arrogance get the better of him and accepted the match on behalf of the team. It would continue on for a couple of weeks. Kevin Owens, Bobby Roode kind of coming to grind a little bit. You know, Owens not too happy with the situation at hand, but Strike First would continue to make an impact by defeating the Revival, and really kind of making themselves a formidable threat within the CWR. Now, when it came to it, the match was pretty good. It was back and forth. There was a lot of individuality. Let's not forget, the men in this matchup have all they've held their own positions elsewhere. Kevin Owens is a former World Heavyweight Champion. AJ Styles is a former Intercontinental Champion when that title existed. Randy Orton is a former Tag Team Champion with John Cena. So, you know, they all had their own little individual skills and agendas. It was a good back and forth match, but I'm going to line this up correctly now. I promise you I will. When it came down to it in the end, due to just some good teamwork and some instinct from Randy Orton, Orton is able to hit the RKO and picks up the big win. Strike First are named your new CWR Tag Team Champions, ending the reign of the Glorious Prize Fighters quite quickly in reality. That's where we're going to end that one. So we're going to move on to the second matchup. And this one is steeped in a bit more history. All the way back at the beginning of the second season, CWR ran, well, it actually ended up running 4 shows, but we ran 3. One of them was Horizon, which was a female-only brand. Now, on that brand, Charlotte Flair would end up, in an attempt to gain some power, would end up forming a group of women known as the New Legacy. Yes, it's a play off Randy Orton's Legacy group from WWE years back, where every woman in the group was a second or third generation superstar consisting of herself, Tamina Snuka, Natalya, Paige, and Carmella. Now, midway through that storyline, Paige disappeared. Natalya and Tamina would go on to gain some success in the tag team division. Carmella would become Triple S champion. Charlotte herself would become Patriot champion. But Paige would just kind of disappear. Now, the original plan for that, and again, I'll go through this in more detail another time, was for Paige to return and deal with it, eventually. Now, this she did end up doing in a more of a roundabout way. In an open challenge battle royal at Immortality, Paige would make her return. Now, once the third season of CWR started, she confronted Charlotte Flair, explaining the story that she was jumped backstage at one point, and that put her out of action with nagging neck issues for a number of months. But now she was back, and she was ready to fight this thing off. Charlotte kind of didn't want the matchup to happen, but Paige was able to goad her into it, and even better still, was able to goad her into having a steel cage match so that no shenanigans could occur. Now, New Legacy hasn't really been a thing for a while anyway, so Paige, was just playing on the erring on the side of caution, but as she came to find out during the matchup with Charlotte, that didn't quite work out, and Charlotte, as you can see now, was able to escape the cage, escape the wrath of Paige, and was able to pick up a hard-fought victory in this one. Coming to backfire on Paige there. And we move on to our next match now, and the next match was for the CWR Patriot Championship with one of the longest reigning champions in CWR history, certainly one of the most dominant, Shinsuke Nakamura, taking on John Cena. Now, Shinsuke Nakamura would win the Patriot Championship back in February. He only didn't... That was his second reign. That was the beginning of his second reign as Patriot Champion. He'd only lost the belt to Cesaro in a ladder match a number of weeks before reclaiming it. Shinsuke Nakamura, as a rule, he manages to escape being beaten. Shinsuke Nakamura has never been pinned or submitted in the CWR. And again, if you've been a long-time fan, you know that isn't technically true, but we're retconning some of the information here. He's never been defeated, and at Immortality, he was able to fend off 3 Japanese legends in Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tetsuya Naito, and Kazuchika Okada. And I realised I said that wrong, shut up. So when Nakamura came out, and we did see this in the first episode, Nakamura came out to the ring and said, "I want competition." Now, John Cena, who'd picked up a big win over Kenny Omega in the Dream Match, the match, as it was billed, decided that he'd use that win as proof that he was ready to take on Nakamura. Both men would spend the next couple of weeks proving themselves by absolutely obliterating any opponents that came before them. But when it came down to it, Shinsuke Nakamura and John Cena, they probably had what I would consider to be the match of the night. They were back and forth. It was a brutal, brutal matchup. But in the end, no one can stop Shinsuke Nakamura, and the Kinshasa puts John Cena away, keeping Nakamura's incredible 290-day reign as champion alive. We move on now to the Women's Patriot Championship match. A match that was a little bit more personal. When CWR returned from its hiatus last year, the Patriot Championship was vacated. The former champion Nia Jax was not brought back to the company, so the title was completely vacated. It was decided very early on, in the first matchup back, I believe, Emma would face Alexa Bliss. Now, of course, Emma back then was still Emma. She's now, of course, Tenille. That's irrelevant. Alexa would cheat to win the championship, and then she would spend the next number of weeks dodging the then Emma, who was seeking a rematch. Eventually, Emma would get her shot at... In fact, no, I think there was a championship match that either should have done or did happen, I'm not sure, where Alexa Bliss actually took a count-out victory and walked away. So it ended up coming down to being booked at Immortality, Emma versus Alexa for the Women's Patriot Championship in a no-holds-barred match. Oh, no, in fact, it was Falls Count Anywhere. It was a Falls Count Anywhere match. Man, I really should have done my research before I made this video. It was a Falls Count Anywhere match. Emma would end up winning the match by doing a DDT onto the apron from the outside and pinning Alexa on the outside of the ring. Emma would take the championship, and obviously she's brought it in with a name change into the new CWR. Now, the now known as Tenille Dashwood, of course. This rematch was set very early on. Emma, Tenille, should I say now, and Alexa were given a no-contact clause. They were not able to touch each other until this matchup. But the rivalry continued to brew. Alexa kept teasing that she was going to go after Emma, that she was going to find a way to get her. But it came down to the matchup. Alexa ended up hitting Twisted Bliss. This was a last woman standing match. I forgot to add that due to the personal rivalry between these two women. It was a last man standing match, and in the end, Twisted Bliss put down Tenille. You have a new Women's Patriot Champion in Alexa Bliss. Now, we move on now to one of the more convoluted storylines in CWR history. The Shield versus the Empire. Roman Reigns would start putting the Empire together last year. Roman Reigns would turn his back on the fans and say it was time to start building his empire. Now, again, this is another one of those storylines that would have made far more sense if the continuation had happened, if there hadn't been that massive gap, and that is something else that I'll go through again in the future. But Roman Reigns would end up positioning himself in a position to become world champion. That was his aim, to put himself in the world championship position. However, CM Punk would return, or in fact would show up in the CWR for the very first time and tell Roman Reigns essentially that he can shove his ego right where the sun don't shine. This would lead eventually to a match between CM Punk and Roman Reigns in Immortality. In the meantime, CM Punk would reform the Shield with himself, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns would enlist the help of some friends in the Machines, Baron Corbin and Samoa Joe, in creating the Empire. Now, when Roman Reigns defeated CM Punk at Immortality, spoiler alerts, I know, then the stipulation of that matchup was that CM Punk would never be able to wrestle for the CWR again. Now, Roman Reigns took that to believe that CM Punk was banished. Punk said, "I'm not." He came back to the CWR as a manager of the New Shield, telling Roman Reigns that the Shield were challenging the Empire to a 3-on-3 match at Apocalypse. Roman Reigns would scoff in his face, saying, "You've done your math wrong, mate." And Punk would retort by saying, "Well, no, I've reformed the Shield in the image that I wanted originally. You were never part of the idea, big dog. This is my Shield." Cassius Ohno would be introduced as the the fourth member, essentially, of the Shield before being attacked by Baron Corbin. The 3-on-3 match would occur with the stipulation that if the Empire won, the Shield would be banned from CWR in any capacity. All 4 members would be banned in any capacity from now on. The Shield stipulation was that if they won, CM Punk would be reinstated as a wrestler within the Revolution. This was a hell of a back and forth matchup. Neither team at any point really looking like they had distinct advantage, but as you can see here, in the end, it was the Shield who would pick up the win, which means CM Punk is back. We'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. But I have a distinct feeling personally that the Shield and the Empire are not done by any means. We move on to the Women's World Championship match now. Now, this was an interesting one. The Triple S Championship was a thing that used to be a thing in the CWR. It was a title that essentially granted the holder, it was a female-only title, it granted the holder to any match of her desire whenever she wanted it. It was kind of like a constantly rotating Money in the Bank briefcase, but it was a title, it was defended like a title. Sasha Banks would claim it at Immortality. She would come out on her first appearance back and say, "I'm not hanging about, I'm not wasting any time." She didn't bring the belt with her, and she said, "I'm facing Asuka at Apocalypse," and that was as simple as that. She effectively retired the belt that night, although that kind of went under the radar. Again, changing a few things up. Plans have certainly changed since we restarted the season. Sasha Banks would end up challenging Asuka. Asuka, of course, coming off the rivalry of the year last year, defeating Legend Jezzy in a 3 stages of hell match at Immortality, finally ending that year-long feud between the two of them. That is another one that didn't quite pan out the way I wanted it to, but we'll get back to that another time. Asuka and Sasha. Sasha put up a fight. She did the best she could, but Asuka has been absolutely unstoppable since winning the title and essentially crushed Sasha Banks in a very, very quick matchup in comparison for a World Championship match. It certainly was a quick one. Sasha Banks failed to capture the title and Asuka retained, looking as strong as ever. And then we move on to our main event matchup, a matchup steeped in somewhat of a controversy. Bray Wyatt would lose the championship to Finn Balor at Immortality. That matchup was a hell of a matchup. Shenanigans, mind games, demonizings, undemonizings, all that other nonsense was in there. It was a great matchup, but in the end, Finn Balor would come out on top and defeat Bray Wyatt finally after 2 years, claiming the title he'd been fighting for since day one. Now, on the first night back, Finn Balor would compete in a kind of a special attraction match with Rob Van Dam. He would defeat RVD before Bray Wyatt would attack and state that he didn't lose the championship to Finn Balor the Man. He lost the title to Finn Balor the Demon King. Bray Wyatt would say to Finn Balor that you, the man, cannot beat me. You, the man, are nothing. You are not worth my time. You are not worthy of that belt. Finn Balor said, put up and shut up, and the next week, the two of them would fight Finn Balor opting to leave the Demon at home. Bray Wyatt would end up winning that match via countout. It would lead to this matchup. Bray Wyatt continuing to taunt Finn Balor the entire time. You can't beat me, Demon. You can't beat me unless you have the Demon. The Demon wins the championship. The Demon is the champion. I, Bray Wyatt, am not a man. I am not a demon. I am a god. That kind of Bray Wyatt spiel. It would get to the matchup. Finn Balor would tease bringing the Demon in. Obviously, you could see from the entrance there, he did the Demon kind of entrance, but he certainly left the Demon behind. He brought the man to the matchup, and Finn Balor gave as good as he got. But in the end, Bray Wyatt's prophecy was proven correct when Bray Wyatt would hit the Sister Abigail for the second time and put away the man to become a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. And that was Apocalypse in a nutshell. Now that's where we're going to start. That's where our reset point is going to be. When we come back in the new year, there will only be the one show. It'll be Asylum. Hopefully it will be a weekly show. I'm going to be doing my absolute damnedest to make sure it becomes a weekly show. I know I'm going to be juggling the universe mode as well, and I do want to juggle some other projects. Hopefully we'll see how it all pans out, but CWR is kind of my baby, so I really want it to take off, and I really want it to focus, to make it a better show. I've got storylines planned out literally for months now, so I really kind of want to get it going and get it up and running again. So we're going to start on the road to the next CWR pay-per-view, which is Fatality. And that's pretty much it, yeah. So again, if you guys do want to have... Well, I'm going to have some time next week because I'm pretty much done all my recording for the Christmas break with the universe mode. Obviously, I've done this one now. You can see it in front of you. So I won't be doing any more actual game recording. That and my equipment is driving me balmy at the moment. Windows updates. Screwing around with my laptop, and my capture card decides that it doesn't want to work with the pass-through at random points while I'm playing the game. Really fun times. So yeah, I won't be doing much at the moment. So if you guys do want to have like a history breakdown of the CWR championships, or maybe one of those pretend it never happened, or what could have happened storylines, you know, something like that. I've got a lot of interesting side steps, anecdotes. I could talk for a while about it. So if you guys want to see anything like that, let me know in the comments section down below, and I'll spend some time next week putting those up, so you've got some entertainment over Christmas, as it were. You can laugh at me about how badly I screwed up some of the storylines and some of the plans and everything else, because it is hilarious at times. It's very saddening at times as well, but it is hilarious most of the time. So there's always that option. If there is anything you want to see from me, let me know. And let me know if you're excited to see CWR come back. You know, it's going to be a brand new kind of idea. We're going to be twisting it around a little bit. The women's division is still going to stay as strong as it was. I did think about cutting the women's division down to just the 2 titles, the women's and the World and the Patriot. I've decided to go against that. I've been watching a lot of stuff from other guys lately, some of my favourite creators, and I've learned a few lessons about what they do and how to really kind of try and run a universe mode properly, because, you know, I know I haven't been doing it right. There's obviously been a disconnect between what I thought was good and what actually is, so I'm going to be focusing a lot on not necessarily the presentation, because I have an idea for what I like for presentation. I know some guys see it one way and I see it completely another. Like, there's some things that I see in their shows that, you know, I feel like they've done too much. They've gone over the board. They break the immersion of what's going on by focusing too much on a specific camera angle or cutting a certain bit out, and I hate that. So I'll be doing it my own way. But what the hell was I talking about? I've just completely gone and lost myself. Yeah, I've learned a lot about kind of how to tell a story and how to keep the shows interesting from week to week, because just putting on match, going, this is what's happening, and then not really having a payoff to the pay-per-view is kind of pointless, because nobody's really interested. I think Mathwiz said it himself. He learnt from Murphs, and it's something I've learned too. You kind of got to have a payoff midway through. You've got to have some storylines that don't focus on the pay-per-view. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do. I'm going to be trying to reel it in a little bit, improve my storytelling, give the feud some actual background other than, I want to be the best and you're a bastard. So that's what I'm going to be aiming for. Anyway, I think I've rambled on far too long now. So I'm going to cut this video short. I want to say thank you if you have watched this for joining me. And if you haven't, and if you've just listened, then, well, good for you. I don't know how to sign these fucking things off. So, for now, guys, I'm going to go. If you do want to see any of those new things, let me know. Until next time, remember to take care and keep it sweet.